Okay. Hey, what is up, wrestling fans? It's the Two Birds Wrestling Show coming at you once again on a very special night, a very special time. We have a lot of WrestleMania stuff to get into. So, Kevin, let's just dive into this, man.
We are diving into it. It is our main event topic, and it is all we will be talking about tonight. We will be doing our big finish at the end. You will want to stick around for that. We will tell you everything we think about it. What was the best match, the botch, and the performance of all of WrestleMania weekend. But, Doug, before we get started completely into spoiler territory, as we like to do for folks, let's just talk in general about WrestleMania 41 now that it's in the books. Obviously, we're going to suggest people watch it because it's WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
I will say this, that WrestleMania 40, that was going to be a high bar. That was pretty much a perfect WrestleMania. I don't think any of us, myself included, thought that they would rise to that level. It was also the first WrestleMania completely under Triple H's control. The accolades it received were well earned. I would say by that standard, which was impossible to meet, this was definitely more of a mixed bag for me, particularly on night one. So should you watch it? Absolutely. Does it have a lot of problems? I think it does, especially night one. If you were going to just watch one night, definitely make it night two. If you were just going to watch for the big matches or best moments, watch the opening match and closing match of each night, and you probably know all you need to know. There's some other good stuff in there. We'll get to that. But, Doug, your overall take of the weekend.
So that's interesting because I'm thinking night one was a superior night than night two. So that's very interesting. Your take is, so we really haven't had a chance to talk yet, but that's very interesting. Night one and night two. I mean, overall, definitely not, doesn't live up to the hype of 40. And a lot of ups and downs throughout the entire both nights, but
ups and downs, man. Ups and downs.
A lot of ups and downs. My call, I would say, I don't know if I could pick and choose between night one and night two. I could put together a really good one night WrestleMania out of those two nights, I think.
Which is, I think, a fair point before we get into our spoilers, is that, and Triple H addressed this in the press conference. He was asked about night two having better energy than night one, and he basically said, hey, you can't stay here the whole time. You have to go up, down, and then you have to leave something for the second night. You did not have that back in the original days of WrestleMania. You could go in guns blazing and keep raising the bar. Now you really do have to take people down some, or otherwise by the time they see that last match on the second night of false finishes and kickouts of doing each other's maneuvers and all, no one would react to anything. So it's definitely a mixed bag, some highs and lows. Maybe we have some disagreements on what those highs and lows are, as it sounds like, which is why we want to do the hot takes. That's why we do not confer beforehand. So let's get right into spoiler territory now, and that is beginning with night one, WrestleMania Saturday. First, Doug, before we get to the match, let's just talk the setup, the look. They're back to the big set this year. Last year they didn't have that. Even though I thought the set looked amazing, I think that part of the reason they were able to do it is that the ticket sales were a little softer than they were the year before, so it wasn't like they could sell those seats. And also another change is a three-man commentary throughout the weekend. Typically, we've had a two-man booth, and I'm not a fan in general of the three-man booth. Wade Barrett, however, made his debut. Doug, I thought he had good showing throughout the weekend. I thought he added a lot.
I really thought he did great all weekend long. I was, for his first WrestleMania there, in the three-man table, I thought he did great. Really do. He really stepped up.
And Cole and McAfee obviously have great chemistry, but when you have something as long as WrestleMania in two nights, in years past, Cole could lose his voice by night two. You have one other person to help carry some of that load. And you don't really have a heel on the team with McAfee and Cole. It was nice to have a heel perspective through a lot of these matches, telling that side of the story. So I like that a lot. So let's get into match one, and that is obviously our world title match of Gunther, the champion, defending against Jey Uso in the main event, Jey Uso, in the non-main event of the opening match.
In the opening act, Jey Uso. I mean, again, the irony there of main event Jey Uso being the opening act of WrestleMania. It's that itself just I don't
I
know.
mean, they've done it before. Lesnar, opened defending the title before. I will say that, once you see the pacing of the night, it maybe wasn't the worst decision. It did get the crowd off hot. It was a very impressive entrance by Jey, and the crowd was into him as they always tend to be. Obviously, everyone excited because WrestleMania has just begun. They did go methodical, I thought, at the start. But that was kind of, I mean, you can go methodical as long as you have the crowd there. And, when you're doing a power slam and people are going nuts, you have the crowd in the palm of your hands. So why go, 110 miles an hour when you don't have to? I was fine with the pacing. I like the nice, the splash near fall. The cool belt spot I thought was a neat little diversion by Gunther to try to get an advantage. There was that intense chop exchange that they had, and then Doug, we called this one. I think everyone could sort of see it coming. Maybe that's another reason why it was okay to open with it, is the suspense wasn't there. But it took 3 splashes. Were you surprised though with how Jey actually finished it?
Yes. It gets Jey really, really over the way he gets. He gets the win, with a tap out. But
have we seen Gunther? I even Walter.
Dragunov.
Do you remember Walter Dragunov? That's right.
Dragunov is he's the only person that's in his WWE career. The Ilya Dragunov is the only one that has had him tap out, and now Jey. And
so that does. I mean, you put a guy over by. And it wasn't like a struggle and waiting. Like he tapped almost immediately. Did you like that?
No, I didn't like it. No, I did not. I get it from a booking perspective, but I didn't care for.
Obviously, you and I are both Gunther fans than we are Jey fans, but I thought that Jey had a really strong showing for him. I thought this was a good match. I thought Jey was kind of operating at the top of his license. It probably helped to be doing so with a ring general like Gunther.
Yes.
And I'm sure that that was in Triple H's mind, that this is someone that can lead Jey to one of his better matches. If you're going to start a reign and you're deciding to put the strap on the guy, they did a great job. I like the twin celebration at the end. I thought that this was, again, booking decisions aside, I thought this was well done and a good start.
Well done, sure. I just wasn't happy with the outcome here. I mean, I'm just a grumpy old Mark, I guess. And
did you like the match?
The match was okay. I mean, I think it was telegraphed weeks ahead of time how this was going to end. I think we all knew how this was going to end. If you're a big Yeet Man fan, then this was great for you and a great way to kick off things and get things started. All I can do is just shake my head and shoot a text to you going, really? Main event is opening the whole show. That's so wrong on so many levels, but it is what it is. And it was a good start to the show. I'll give it that. But
the fans were into it. The fans,
absolutely.
It definitely created a nice moment. And then I thought, for me, and again, I'm obviously more of a night 2 guy in this year's WrestleMania. I think this is where that momentum that they had at the start immediately gets lost, starting with this next match. And that's the Tag Team Championship match. The War Raiders defending against the new version of the New Day, which, the winners were, as we expected. I think we both called it, is the New Day, which was the right booking call. It's just the crowd immediately zoned out on this one.
It's very much like a come down match to me, because I agree this did bring that energy down quite a bit after that match. And I was a little bit indifferent to this, still, a bit grumpy from the outcome of, not the outcome because I saw it coming, but to have him tap out again from a booking perspective, I get it. It really puts Jey over. But at this point, I was like, okay, New Day needs to just go ahead and take this. And this was You see here, this was a relatively short match. This was almost like a TV match, like just a shot, just a few over 9. I mean, barely 10 minutes, maybe just a little bit over 9.
Which they shouldn't have tried to go longer than that, considering the disinterest of the fans. I kind of felt sorry that one point early on, Ivar was trying to pump the crowd, do the, on the ring apron tag team, like, the common move we've seen for decades of the guy on the outside doing the clap, and no one was clapping back. The action was fine. The talent obviously is there. Obviously, it's WrestleMania. The effort is going to be there. Sure. I blame this kind of squarely on the fact that no one cares about the WWE Tag Team division because the bookers have not shown they care about the WWE Tag Team division.
That's fair. Yeah.
They were not put in a position that they could conceivably succeed here with people caring. Yeah. There was short. My note was short, not much to it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it, because there is actually, now that we're going through this, maybe I like night 1 better because of just the main event of night 1. We'll have to talk this through with me here as we go. My position on night 1 versus night 2 may evolve as we go, because the next match with Cargill and Naomi.
Let's go into that. Naomi versus Jade Cargill. Once again, this one was an easy one to predict. Doug and I both predicted Jade Cargill. I really thought that the Jade entrance with Jim Cantori, I thought that was great. I thought it was funny.
See, I thought it was a little cheesy. I really liked
it was.
When they had like the X-Men theme thing, because they really worked that hard with Jade, where she has that perfect Storm look anyway. But
so you would rather go with comic book Storm than Weather Channel Storm, is what you're saying?
Absolutely, every time. Come on, I'm an old school X-Men fan.
I'm with you on that. I still got a chuckle out of it. Naomi did I thought a good job here leading Jade Cargill to an acceptable match, and I say acceptable in that Jade Cargill was never put in a great spot in AEW to not look green. She was overexposed in AEW. Obviously, WWE took way more care. And this is the coming out moment, right? This is your first singles contest on WrestleMania, your biggest platform. As such, it didn't need to be a 5-star classic. You just need to not fumble the ball. And I thought it was a perfectly acceptable match to do that. I like the top rope bulldog by Naomi. I like the great catch of Naomi into the jackhammer. Looked really cool. Yes. And then that finishing sequence, it got a little clunky, but still the power showed to come out of that and flip her around and put her in the power bomb. That was truly impressive.
It was, absolutely. I mean, it got her over the way Naomi needed to get Cargill over. That all worked. I was a bit bothered by Jade's costume, because where
Jade was bothered by her costume.
Yeah. I mean, there's some, if you're a fan of what is it, Twitter, X, whatever it is now,
wardrobe malfunctions.
You can trace down those wardrobe malfunctions, but I was more bothered by the backside, where there were like the wrinkles in it that made her like look like she had some sort of protruding spine issue going on. But
I had a conversation with my wife, who I was, obviously knows more about fashion than I do, but I'm like, you'd think that with all the care they put into these costumes, they would check these out in like ring use to.
Yes.
It happens way too often, it seems, that you have these wardrobe issues on something that should have been checked, double checked, triple checked before you go out in front of 60,000 people.
Yes.
But I like this. I thought for what it needed to be, it served its purpose well.
Yeah, and we got another, like TV time limit kind of match here within, again, just a little over 9 minutes. Not, back-to-back, TV segments almost, really.
So then, to me, we started to pick up. At this point, this next match was the match of the night to this point, and that was your U.S. Championship of LA Knight defending that U.S. Championship against the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu, much like with the Jade Cargill analysis we just gave. Again, your first singles match on the biggest stage. This is the moment for a coming out party. And as we all expected, not only did Jacob Fatu win, but as we all also probably expected, he did not disappoint in being Jacob Fatu out there.
He did not. I think it took a little while for things to get into gear, but once they did, it was a beautiful, beautiful work. It just came together. We had no ridiculous solo interfering to cost them or anything which I'd hope they did not do. And it all just came together, and it's a good win for Fatu.
I love that beautiful pop-up Samoan drop. That was a little bit clunky on a crucifix attempt by Knight that Cole, I think, called an arm drag, but I'm pretty sure he was trying a crucifix. Yes. I like the Knight. I always have liked LA Knight's jump up to the top rope. That sort of no-look jump up. I thought it looked great. This was the first "This is awesome" chant of WrestleMania weekend. Even the opening contest, as much as folks were into Uso, they did not get the "This is awesome" during the match. This was getting it, and it was deserving it. Fatu got a lot of babyface reaction, Doug. How long can we keep? I mean, those moonsaults. The moonsault into the BFT, excuse me. Great on LA Knight and on Fatu. Yep. And then the sequence at the end. I don't know that you can keep him heel very long.
Yeah, I think coming out of this, we're going to see, two heels go babyface. Fatu, the heel from the first night, and then we'll talk about a 3-man. It was 4-man, wasn't it? On night 2, we'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, there's some people swapping their roles in the coming weeks or months, I think.
Yeah, this was star-making performance for Fatu, but he is just too good and too cool, and the fans are going to cheer him. It's going to happen. And good work by Knight. He did his part.
Yes, yeah, he showed up and did what needed to be done. Yeah.
This next contest, Doug, this one is, again, this is just an unfortunate circumstances. So Rey Mysterio was hurt the night before. So instead of Rey facing El Grande Americano, you end up with Rey Fenix filling in. Obviously, this is a big moment for Rey Fenix. He's been with the company for less than 2 weeks, and here he is having a singles match that he did not anticipate having on WrestleMania. From that aspect of it, it was a good match for what it was, but it would have been just fine on SmackDown as well. It was not. There's no story for the fans to get invested in, and it's not their fault. They're both talented. There's no story there. It was a last-minute fill-in, and it felt like a last-minute fill-in.
So, I wonder why not Dragon Lee or somebody else from the LWO there to come out and represent Rey. Is it because that Phoenix, just like Penta, has been in these huge situations, with their involvement in Mexican promotions before, and they can have these big money matches in front of huge audiences? In Dragon Lee,
that they may want to. I think they may want to think of it as an endorsement of Rey Fenix, but then you have him lose, and he's still so new to have lost. Penta is wins all the time. Ray's just around, and now you've maybe defined him down by having him losing so soon. I'm with you. I would have expected Dragon Lee or someone. Do you think, though, that the whole finish is different? Do you think that El Grande Americano would not have gone over had it been Mysterio? Are they saving his comeuppance, his mask versus mask, or whatever they end up doing for Ray to come back?
I don't know if they're saving it for Ray, but after watching in the announcement they made where WWE has acquired AAA now and having Vikingo in the audience, I think this leads into a much larger integration of AAA into the WWE with the
El Grande Americano as a
being actually that bridge. So
AAA right now does have as its authority figure one JBL. That's a link to WWE, and he's on there talking about using AAA talent to mow his lawn and all the heel American stuff. So it would fit right in to what they're currently doing. And it should be noted, obviously, we are, going here to get you ready for Raw and go through the matches. We will have a lot more, an entire show dedicated down the line to the whole AAA announcement, because that is big. That is a very, very big announcement.
Huge. But in hindsight, I don't think Ray was supposed to win that match to begin with, and it sets up a lot more down the road. So,
well, I'm not counting this against our predictions, since these were not the men that we expected to be in the match.
Exactly.
Big opportunity for Phoenix. That's what I put in the notes of a fine match. That 450 backwards senton that Chad Gable pulled off was maybe the actual most physically impressive move of the weekend. It just was in a match that we couldn't yet invest in. So it was fine. It was just there.
Yes.
Another one that was just there for me. Doug, let's move on to the women's championship match, where Tiffany Stratton, your champion, as we both, I think, predicted correctly, defended successfully against Charlotte Flair. I really thought, let's go walking through it, that Barbie box entrance was really cool. That was just perfect. Yes. Big heat for Charlotte. Every little thing she did was booed. She is not the cool heel. She is the she is the heel that you want, and that is they will boo her. There's nothing she can do. And as you, I think, pointed out in our preview show, she was supposed to be the baby face.
Right. And that's just not Charlotte. And there are points, especially when they first started out, I wasn't sure if they were working really stiff or looking to work really stiff. And either way, I don't care, because it looked great. And
they were hurting each other.
Yes, it got me questioning: Are they working stiff? Are they just making it look like they're working stiff? Are they working through some issues in the ring, like in real time live, or what is happening here? And then I'm just like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this. It's WrestleMania. These girls are going to do their thing, and I'm just going to enjoy it.
It was not perfect. There were a few clunky spots, but I think part of it was, to your point, they were trying to be so stiff that there were times that in any real fight, it's not going to be pretty. And there were some spots that didn't look pretty, but also looked like they might legitimately be trying to hurt one another. They were laying it in. Tiffany Stratton's face pretty much told the story of how laid in things were. I mean, her lips was swollen. There was a welt on her forehead.
It looked like she had her teeth were cracked, or
she had to actually go online and say that her teeth were fine, because everyone thought she lost the tooth.
Okay.
That's how. I thought it was. I liked it. I thought this was very good overall, and a star-making moment for Tiffany Stratton. You beat one of the best. You beat a Flair who has traditionally had really good matches, and devil her do. Like Charlotte, tired of Charlotte, whatever you want to say, Charlotte Flair has a track record at WrestleMania, and she once again added to that legacy of having good matches on the big stage.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I really like this. This is one of the reasons why I'm like, yes, night one, great. Not the best, women's championship match of the weekend, but a really great one.
Foreshadowing to night two, but Doug, we have one more match to talk about in night three.
Yes, we
do. That was the main event that maybe shouldn't have been the main event, because there was no title at stake. And then you see it and you realize that
totally been the main event.
It was a main event quality match with three main event caliber performers. And who in the world would want to follow that? You put anything on after that, and no one would have had the same reaction to Jey Uso winning, because they would have been spent. Let's walk through this one, Doug. Let's break it down. Seth with his flamethrower entrance. I love Roman.
Everything, it just all came together there with Roman's entrance, Seth's entrance, Punk's entrance. I thought was the best out of the three, because you have this
come on, man.
This gleeful CM Punk who just is so happy and can't contain that he's got his WrestleMania main event that is in fact the main event of night one, where he's going on last, which in my mind, just like CM Punk's mind, the main event should be the last match of the night. And he got that.
And of course, you're going to say that Punk's entrance was the best of the three, and I'm going to agree with you and say it's one of the best WrestleMania entrances of all time. That's because we're two old school music marks, and so when you got Living Color there, actually doing Cult of Personality, it's sounding so good while doing it. I'm like watching Corey Glover take a selfie
take
with
a selfie with, and Vernon Reid has three like different custom guitars from Reverend. Guitars, and I love the look of those guitars. Love all three of those signature guitars he has. But yeah,
it was fantastic entrances, and
yes,
it immediately felt like the main event before the bell even rang by the time they did those entrances. And the crowd who had waned throughout the night because of some of the back and forth mixed bag. By this, they were back. They were invested. This one quickly went to the outside. Then Roman comes flying over the top rope. The crowd was really torn. They were invested in all three men. Like,
sure,
I think they just liked seeing these three guys because I expected fully there would be this big CM Punk contingent and everyone else would get booed. Kind of at this point, they were so giddy. Everyone got cheered for almost everything that happened.
Everything, yes.
The cool Doomsday device with Punk and Roman working together, I thought was good again. I love the spear into the pedigree counter.
That was
the
great.
timing on that was sick. Seth did a great job rallying Roman to try to convince him that we need to, let's get rid of this guy.
So I love how he even calls out. He's like, you got no bloodline. We don't have Mox. I love how he calls that out.
Yeah.
That's like what, the second year in a row that John Mox has been mentioned. So, and Seth's the one always bringing him up, and then almost gets the power bomb, which would have been totally wrong because you need three people to do that Shield power bomb.
That's right, for it to be a true Shield power bomb. But that's not what we got. What we got was that the back half of the match especially was just amazing to me. And as we said in our preview show, and as all of us probably could see coming, it was going to boil down to what will Paul Heyman do. And so what Paul Heyman does is disappoint his tribal chief by seemingly handing the chair to his best friend CM Punk. And I'm like, no, I think he's swerving us. I think he's swerving us. I saw the first swerve coming because that's when Paul did what I thought, and like, yes, he's in the corner of his tribal chief, and he low blows Punk, and I'm like, and this is how it ends. And it wasn't how it ends, Doug.
Nope.
I love the way he just presented the chair to Roman, let him beat the crap out of Punk for a while.
And that totally removes Punk from the equation then, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got the crap beat out of him.
And it looks like Paul is totally on board with the tribal chief. Like you say, the way he presents the chair. And then he's like, my tribal chief, look. And it perfectly sets up that shit betrayal from like 10 years ago. We're set to his back. Perfect setup. And then it's like everybody, all 60,000 people in that arena saw it coming as soon as Paul slid behind Roman.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you called it though. I know you and we missed this one. We both joked that I think I picked Roman, you picked Punk, and I'm like, watch it be Seth. And you theorized, what if Heyman sides with Seth? That's exactly what happened in the end.
Got my Seth Rollins shirt on tonight.
I loved every minute of that, right down to the Paul drama. The match itself would have been great even on its own. Then the Paul drama and decision, the swerve was the big surprise of the night, quite possibly the big surprise. Actually, I would say the big surprise of the weekend in all likelihood. You do have to suspend a little disbelief. There's like a good 30 minutes before Paul Heyman makes his decision that, Roman Reigns could have pinned somebody But the way it played out, I am not going to quibble. I thought it was an excellent match and an excellent way to end night one.
I thought it was great, a great way to end night one, and it really just brought the level up of everything in night one up a notch.
Yeah, Yeah, I do think that for me, that after what I thought was mostly a mixed bag, that main event happened, and I thought that's a match of the year contender. That's a perfect match.
Yep.
That's a main event match. I no longer am quibbling about the order of the contest. That's the main event.
Yep.
Let's move to night 2. What do you say, Doug?
Let's do it. Let's talk about this triple threat match that opened up night 2. My goodness.
I think somebody on the post show at WWE said it. I think maybe Sam Roberts said, you had the classic that ended night 1, and then the ladies come out on night 2 and say, "Hold my beer," because that's kind of like 2 excellent triple threat matches on WrestleMania weekend. One by the men, one by the women. This one was for the World Championship. Io Sky defending against Rhea and Bianca. Breaking it down from the beginning, I'm sorry, I'll always pull this out and say it. Champs should come out last. Io came out first, but what are you going to do? I did like Bianca and her entrance, as always, bringing it with the style, her outfit, the roses, everything she made herself. And then you got Rhea Ripley coming out just looking terrifying.
Yes.
Doug, during the introductions, it was kind of obvious that the crowd was not going to let the action dictate how they felt going in. They booed Bianca from the moment that her name was called. And then there were about equal cheers, at least during the intros, for Rhea and Io. It's interesting that the fans just organically decided that we're ready for Bianca to be heel in this. I don't know if they are also seeing that she's going to feud with Jade down the line, and assuming what we assumed is that she might somehow have something to do with what happened with Naomi.
Right.
But the fans were not having Bianca on this night, and Bianca was smart to not try to play to them. She immediately just started doing heel mannerisms.
I think you've got a different crowd that's going to show up at a WrestleMania and the post WrestleMania, even the pre WrestleMania SmackDown. Yeah, that's a different crowd that's rolling into town.
100%.
Just a completely different crowd. That's more a lot of ICW folks there, and just it's just different. So it's different than the St. Louis, Missouri crowd, or whatever. Going into its TV taping, but the crowd kind of dictated this match a bit. But my goodness, it's just boom, 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 boom,
it
boom.
Was boom, boom. That opening sequence, opening sequence right from the start, you had that Io Sky Rana that she did. There was that double blockbuster from Io that happened early on. The Bianca 450. That was a thing of beauty. This was also getting the "This is awesome" chant early on, and very much deserved. There was a lot of believable near falls. I stopped taking notes at this point because I thought I'm going to miss something. It was happening so fast.
Exactly. Yeah.
And let's give all 3 women credit, not just for the work they did, but the incredible timing. There was so many near falls, counters, reversals that just somebody being a second off, the ref being a second off. I mean, it would have messed with the momentum. They did not make, at least from my viewpoint, they didn't miss a beat. Like everything they were trying to do, they pulled it off perfectly.
So for night 1 and night 2, everybody was hitting their spots at such perfect timing. So many breaks throughout like multi-person matches, and there were a lot of multi-person matches throughout both night 1 and night 2. But whenever there needed to be a break in the count, somebody was there right on top of it, right when they needed to be, and these girls, of course, were no exception to that.
I thought that ending sequence with this is what I have in my notes. The ending sequence with the all the counters and reversals, the winning moonsault at the end to break up the pin, and everything. The timing had to be perfect, and it was. It was absolutely a perfect match and a great victory for Io.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone won in that one, especially those of us watching. I think I predicted Bianca and you predicted Rhea, so I think we got that one wrong, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did.
Either way, I've no complaints on that one.
Right. I mean, first of all, I enjoy it being wrong, when it comes to calling matches, because usually it's something we just didn't see coming. So that's always great.
This next one, Doug, I'm going to say this one overperformed for me, and I expected that it might, and I didn't necessarily like the story going in, but this was smart. Like night one, to me, you had the big match at the beginning and had the fans invested, and then you put on a match that they didn't care about. With this one, instead of a come down from that amazing first match, you give them something so completely different that you don't try to do the same thing. This was two big men having a hardcore beat the crap out of each other kind of match and not a wrestling contest. And as such, I thought it was great booking on night two to follow this up to keep the crowd level simmering.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of this match. I think the coolest thing that happened in this match, is Drew taking selfies like mid-match, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to lead to Drew, being his own worst enemy yet again. Honestly, I had completely forgotten that, it was Priest that, cashed in his Money in the Bank last year. On Drew right after he won the championship with Punk interfering. And for a second there, I was like, oh, yeah, this is how this is going to go down. And I just was not invested in this. And I think this is.
I thought you would like to carry. I thought you'd like the Kerry King.
You know what? That was a little bit too much whammy bar for me, man. I don't know what was going on there.
You're more of a Living Color than a Slayer kind of entrance guy. Is that what you're saying?
I don't mind a little Slayer, but this wasn't really Slayer. It was just Kerry King out there, and everybody kept getting it wrong. It's not Slayer. It's just Kerry King.
I love this
one a little bit, but
I actually love this one. I thought it was a fast start. They went quick to the plunder, which again sort of differentiated it from everything that came before. I like Drew flying to the outside, and then like you said, the selfie, taking. It was a great spot. I too thought it would come to bite him, but it didn't really. The Racer's Edge through the table, that was a cool spot. They got a "This is awesome" chant, the second in a row, which is a good showing that the booking flow of having this match follow. The fans were just as into this one as they were the first match, which again, night one, I felt that they lost that a little bit. The Undertaker old school attempt did not work out for Priest. Like the table bump there. I think the kick through the chair was really cool looking finish that looked like it hurt a good deal. And the right guy went over. Drew had, Priest had a great year, but Drew is money and he needs to be the heel in the main event moving into this new season of WWE.
Yeah, I think Drew, once we get some wins with Jay, to establish him, maybe I'm thinking perhaps by SummerSlam, Jay is losing that title. Yeet is over by that point, and then Drew can be a heel champion for a while. We'll see.
I'd like to see Jay versus Drew. That'd be new, and Drew has earned a spot because he did the deed with CM Punk. Had an amazing feud of the year last year in my mind. Had some great matches. Ultimately, he come down on the losing end. He can't continue to always come up short. So I think he needed to win this one, and I think he needs to be elevated into the main event moving ahead.
And didn't Drew get Slammy for feud of the year?
He did. Yep.
Yeah.
Deserved.
So what we got? Okay, so this 4-way that happened next, I love this. This was a great match.
The third straight match that opens WrestleMania Night 2 that got "This is awesome" chance. So the momentum stayed high for most of Night 2. I loved everything about it. Set the stage here. Your champion for your IC match. This is Braun Breaker against Penta, against the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Dirty Dom.
Yeah. And Carlito coming out at one point to, add his 2 cents to things. But so, Braun Breaker is such an amazing athlete, such a beast. There were points where he was just flying through the air from out of nowhere. I'm like, what?
Should anyone? I put it in my notes here to ask you. We've seen it from Goldberg to Edge to but at this point, should anyone ever do a spear again now that Braun Breaker is doing them?
No, just stop. He just leave it be. And his Frankensteiners, my goodness, effortless.
Yeah, he's the future. He is a future world champion. There's no doubt about it. He makes everything more excited. He looks like $1,000,000. He wrestles like a cruiserweight. That spears that when he did that one flying out on the outside of the ring, again, it looks like he's flying, like he's shot out of a gun missile kind of fly.
Yes, absolutely. It's like, where did he even come from just now?
That Frankensteiner continues just to be a thing of beauty. Let's not take for granted that what he does with that. Fans in this one surprised me, Doug.
Yes, and I loved it. I loved it. It was great.
It wasn't just for the victory. During the match, it was obvious that despite all the talent on display, and Penta showed out. Let's give it up for Penta. In his first showing, he looked good. Breaker looked like the beast that he is. Finn obviously was there to help further the storyline of the match, was the Judgment Day. And the Judgment Day appeared to have imploded with the great finish to protect, because let's look at it this way. Breaker is the future of the business. We've been talking about how amazing he was in this. He did not lose. He lost, but he did not get pinned. Penta, your new hot star, unlike Rey Fenix,
not pinned.
Unlike what they did with Rey, Penta stayed strong, not pinned. So this is totally a Judgment Day switcheroo. And did Dom look like he was seriously like almost breaking character? He was having so much fun.
Yes, especially when he runs back to
he ran back to the
after
ring, to soak up the cheers of the crowd.
Soak it up. Yeah, exactly. And the crowd was so into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. And and at this point I thought, okay, we are definitely like overachieving in night 2 compared to night 1, because we have, in my mind, 3 matches get the "This is awesome" chant, 3 matches that deserve the "This is awesome" chant. This was starting to feel more like WrestleMania to me than most of night. But as with anything, it has to go up or down. So this next one we should talk about only because this is no one else's fault. If you would have put Randy Orton and KO on either night 1 or night 2, you could have had a whole different conversation about night 1 and night 2, because they would have delivered. Just like with Rey, though, when you have an injury, what can you do? I thought what they did was the best thing they could do. Is now fans expect it to be a big surprise, but at the same time, you can't have the same kind of match you had planned for. You can't have that feud that you had going. So what did we go? We go more of a comical route, more of a surprise route. That's the only thing they could do. And I thought, to that end, this served its purpose on the card. You have to come down a little bit from the high of those first 3 matches. But Randy Orton, who does he get? Say his name, Doug, and he appears.
You think he'll show up on our show if we say his name?
Hey, I believe in Joe Hendry. That audience believes in Joe Hendry.
I know. I just hated it as soon as I saw him, because it's like, oh man, Randy's gonna, the TNA champion is not going over in Randy's 20th WrestleMania. Yeah. So I thought that sucked, but at least he got acknowledged. He got in there, got to do his stuff, got to get over, got to be introduced to a whole bunch of people who have no idea who he is, who don't watch TNA. So it was a win for him.
Watch the crowd, the hardcore, like you said, it's a different audience that pays to go. Watch the hardcore crowd react to him in such a way that if you're watching at home casually, you're probably going, "What is this? And let me check this out." So, from that end, it was a great night for Joe Hendry. I had the same thing in my notes, though, as you're saying. It's kind of a bummer to have your world champion basically squashed in a 3-minute match.
Yeah, and for that, I was like, I'm not sure where we go after this. Hopefully things pick up next, and they really didn't, for me anyway.
So let's go next. AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. Elephant in the room here. AJ Styles is one of the best of all time that I like, is one of my all-time favorites. But again, that elephant in the room to me is that AJ has not had the best track record of matches at WrestleMania. For whatever reason, probably his best performance wasn't really a match. It was that Boneyard contest with The Undertaker. Yeah. Outside of that, AJ's never really created a WrestleMania moment, despite how phenomenal he is. Logan Paul obviously is not as much a celebrity dabbling in wrestling as he is a good wrestler who probably would benefit from not being a celebrity and actually have more time to just be around instead of 4 or 5 matches a year. I don't know what it was. It was fine, but only fine.
It was fine. Yeah, I think there were cooler things where like Paul's got his drone
the
and he
drone.
catches it like
Yeah.
Some sort of familiar flying to him and flying away and stuff.
Using it during the match was maybe the most memorable thing and then they kept the match shot from the drone footage for a good couple of minutes. I thought that was maybe my favorite part of the match.
It's very innovative. I really like that. But overall, it was just like, man, I mean, you didn't have that. I think Logan Paul is really good for producing those viral moments. And I'm thinking who better than AJ to make something like that with, but it just never really came about. So again, it's like, okay, this is where maybe night 2 is sort of unraveling for me anyway. I mean, I
will say that Paul is a heat machine. Like the fans were like, and I will also say, because I put it in my notes, that that lion salt actually would make Jericho jealous. That was a pretty impressive lion salt.
Oh my goodness! That was like a coast to coast lion salt.
It truly was. I do think though that maybe just because it wasn't clicking in outside of those moments, this is where audience fatigue, maybe from the entirety of 4 or 5 days of activity, started to creep in. Because I think they started to lose the crowd a little bit here too.
Yeah.
And let's just talk real quickly because I know we got 2 more matches to get through. Let's talk real quickly about that ending. I thought it was going okay overall, and then Karrion Kross. Maybe it's good for Cross, I'm sure, to be involved in something with AJ. Maybe it'll make more sense down the line. I thought that was unnecessarily convoluted, and it just took it down a notch in my book at the end. I mean, just too confusing. It makes no sense. Yeah.
Agreed.
Let's go to the women's tag team match where Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez were defending their championship against Lyra, Valkyria, and poor Bayley got taken out by an injury. This is actually a change they made that was not an injury that apparently had been in the works for a while. Bayley knew about it. Bayley is a professional. Becky Lynch returned, Doug.
She did.
Let's start from the top here. I liked Lyra's entrance. I thought the whole bird thing, she just looked cool. I wanted wings after that. I did feel sorry for Bayley, knowing that you had to know going into that you really didn't have a spot on Mania. So I do feel kind of bad for Bayley.
But do we find out later that the man took out Bayley to get this opportunity to team with her fellow countrymen to do something, and it leads to something bigger for Bayley later on?
Maybe, but is that not a little too much and too soon, similar to what's happening with Naomi and Jade and all that? That's the only thing that I'm like with that one. It's like that's just going to that well too often if they go there.
Unless they just drop that now and go another direction with Jade, because Jade can still use a lot of work.
It could be the obvious of Liv and Raquel just did it and thought like, we're going to beat one lady, but. I'm not going to count this one against us either, Doug, because your winners are the new Irish connection. That's not who we anticipated. Had we known Becky Lynch was coming back, we would not bet against Becky Lynch in her comeback match at WrestleMania. I think just visually speaking, though, too, the whole like mentor-mentee, 2 Irish girls, like this one, they just feel more like a natural tag team than Bayley and Lyra did anyway. That we in our preview we said that's a makeshift. Awkward. We predicted Liv and Raquel because of that, and what we got instead was okay. Now this makes sense.
Yeah, from the moment that I saw Becky at the Hall of Fame, like okay, she's going to have some sort of WrestleMania moment, and then Bayley's injured, and can't compete, so it's like okay, it was some very hardcore telegraphing that they did, because there's really nobody else who they're going to stick in that spot at that point. It just made too much sense for it to be the man. So don't get me wrong, I liked Becky Lynch coming back. I liked the outcome of this match, but it was almost like too forced, because Becky Lynch, first of all, is not losing on her return at WrestleMania, and it was just almost by the numbers at that point. Still a great match, but better than
I put it down as fan service, because that's what this was. This was fan service. You want to see Becky? Here's Becky. Lyra could barely control the smile on her face. So happy to be obviously team, and she showed out. Let's give her credit for being the talent she is.
Absolutely.
And of course, Raquel as a beast, and Liv Morgan is probably one of the best heels. I think is underrated for how good a heel she is. She was only tagging in when her team had the advantage and would quickly tag out and hide behind the bigger woman. Liv is great in her role. Let's see where they go with this and with this tag team. I think there's maybe some possibilities with this as a tag team. And that brings us, Doug.
We got 10 minutes before Raw hits the air. So.
Well, I guess we don't have time to talk about Stone Cold hitting the barricade and maybe running over a fan, but that happened.
Although kudos to Nick Khan for being like Batman and just being right on the scene, just out of nowhere to take care of things.
Out of nowhere.
That poor lady is okay, because anyway, let's talk about this main event, man.
We get to our main event, the main event of the entire weekend. That is the WWE Championship. Cody Rhodes' story ends. Wrestling is dead. This is the last episode of the Two Bros Wrestling Show. Thank you all for watching this. John Cena did what he said he was going to do. He breaks Ric Flair's record as the 17-time. Starting at the top, Doug, Cena was business. Like, there was no entrance. Like, there was just normal entrance. Cody had at least this, like, Terminator looking mask thing, which I thought was actually kind of cool.
Very cool. And especially when it does the Iron Man, like, pop up like it's an Iron Man, like, helmet. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
I knew, though, we were in for a wild match, because we get to the intros and Cena is booed. And I thought, oh, there's going to be this, like, Cena love, this let's go Cena. And at least during the intros, he's booed. Then they introduce Cody. And Cody is booed more. So
suddenly it's like, what was that, Rock Hogan from WrestleMania 17, where everybody just kind of, okay, you're going to be the heel and you're the babyface now. We've already decided.
It was a hot crowd at the start of this. They really were like invested in what was happening. And at first I thought, are they just going to hate both men? And they quickly started, the longer the match went on, the more the let's go Cena sucks chance became more hate towards Cody and more love towards John.
Which is really weird, because it was a very sloppy, and I think John was working hard to ruin wrestling by obviously calling spots and not really even caring that he was calling spots or who heard him or who saw him calling them. Okay, punch me, hit me again, into the corner. I mean, come on, dude. Is this part of his ruining wrestling? I was confused at that point.
I liked there was a nice FU, couple of hope spots, some counters, the top rope, not FU anymore, the top rope AA for a near fall. Yes. I like that. I like the STFU spot. There were things about this match I liked, including the ending. It is the one that we predicted, and it is the one that makes the best storyline sense.
Yes.
Now let's talk about what I didn't like. Overall, it was going to be passable. No one expects John Cena at his age and with his history anyway to be elevated by Cody Rhodes to have a 5-star classic. He wasn't going to suddenly become Dean Malenko. But what they went with was a ref bump, and instead of The Rock, we get Travis Scott, who ends up at a crossroads that ends up in Cody getting a belt shot because Cody is the good guy. Cena is not the good guy. Cena took the shortcut that Rhodes wouldn't take, and he got a big pop. There was a big pop for Cena winning.
So he certainly got a pop. I think everybody expected The Rock to show up. Maybe Travis Scott comes out first, but Rock does not show up.
No Rock.
Travis, I will say, Travis Scott, not really a credible threat. I mean, I think my 9-year-old it weighs more and is bigger than Travis Scott. I
can understand Cody being distracted by like, hey, you legitimately, busted my eardrum, so I'm going to get some comeuppance on you. But
even Cody said,
I
"Hey,
think
I remember, so
that part of it I would have been fine with. It's just
mm-hmm,
they didn't go anywhere else. It was
mm-mm,
anticlimactic. We waited for The Rock. The Rock didn't come. And at that point, I thought they're having an okay match, not a great one. It is going to
mm-hmm.
be the story, not the match. And the story will be
Yes,
17 times. It is a big story and a big moment.
absolutely,
To me, though, I would take it down a grade in my own estimation because of the Travis Scott and the clunky ending.
yeah, very clunky because you're like, wait, that's it, it's over, it's
Yeah.
done. Well, John Cena really did ruin wrestling. Am I okay with this? I kind of am okay, and so were I think 60,000 people that were in attendance, last night who were cheering Cody
John
losing.
Cena.
Not,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting to see where this goes now. I mean, I called the Pat McAfee was it the PMS, the Pat McAfee show earlier today, and Cena was on there. It's very interesting, very interesting.
And I guess that is where we go. Where do we go with
Yeah.
this new season of Raw that's
Where do
getting
we
ready
go?
to begin? I did think it was a little flat of an ending for what otherwise was a really good night. And
Mm-hmm.
years from now, maybe we won't think of the match or Travis Scott, and we'll think of the moment of Cena walking out to cheers
Yeah.
as a heel. The moment was fine. But let's do some estimations here, Doug. Big finish. We'll go through this quick. The botch,
Yeah.
I'm going to just call it right out there because I think we were just talking about it. To me, it was no Rock and Travis Scott. It is the biggest moment.
Yep.
You set it up in a way that it was the hottest thing in all of wrestling, and you get it to the yard line right before goal. And to me, you kind of fumble by putting Travis out there by himself. That, let's be honest, the WWE universe, most of us don't care about Travis Scott. So that was, yeah. I think they'd been better off if Cena would just straight up cheated without anybody's help and gone that way with it, as opposed to insert Travis Scott. So Travis Scott, botch.
Yep. Agreed.
Performance of the week, Doug.
Weekend, you know what? Wade Barrett nailed it. I got to say, for his first WrestleMania, I got to give kudos to him. I think announcers get overlooked a lot in the part that they play towards the overall storytelling. Barrett was right there, right in the middle of it. Maybe I just like the heel announcers too, because
I like that they had the back on. Yeah. I mean, you need that, especially when you're doing 8 hours of live broadcasting.
Yes. How about you?
My performance of the weekend, I almost went with Triple H just for his Hall of Fame speech, which I thought very deftly handled the controversial subjects like China, and even more controversial, his father-in-law. And he did so in a very honest manner. But then I watched yesterday and I'm like, I got to give this to Dom. Dirty Dom. Yes. Not just because it was a great match, but that kid was in that ring when he was 8 years old. And here he is now as someone who we wouldn't even let him talk without booing him. And suddenly, during the course of watching him get better at what he does organically over the last year and a half, we have apparently held this secret love of Dirty Dom, and it all just came.
Dirty Dom. Yes,
it just all came out in that audience, and he truly seemed overwhelmed by it. And watching him enjoy it. I'm thinking to myself, Ray's back there wishing he could have been on the card, but this was probably the best WrestleMania Rey Mysterio Jr. ever had.
I am certain. As a father, I am certain that is the best WrestleMania Rey has ever had.
That was one of the best moments of the weekend. So that's my performer. I'm interested to hear, because this is going to go one of two ways, and there is no wrong answer. But your match of the weekend.
You may be surprised by this, but I'm going stand and deliver with the females fatal four-way. Female fatal four-way. We've been very much WrestleMania focused, but stand and deliver is very much a part of WrestleMania weekend, and that female fatal four-way, where we see Vancouver, I always have trouble with her last name, retain. That was an amazing match. And so was that women's ladder match from Stand and Deliver too. I was torn between those two because, I'm a huge Sol Ruka fan.
Sol Ruka, but the Soul Snatcher is the best finisher in the business. I love that thing.
But that was me. I know the clock is ticking. We have a minute left, Kevin, before Raw goes live.
I'm going to say that as much as I loved the main event triple threat on Saturday and wanted to give that, the women's match that opened on Sunday was for a title. And it therefore I gave it the nod, and it didn't have the interference, the shenanigans. It was just three women. Who's the best? Perfect timing with a big stakes. The women showed out all weekend long. All weekend long.
I was getting ready to say that. The women really showed out. Absolutely.
And with that is 41 in the books. And Doug, we're bringing them in on time. We are not on the air on Sunday. We're taking this Sunday off. We'll be back on May 4th. See you then.
See you then. Go watch Raw. It's a brand new season. Thanks, y'all.
New season begins.